Chapter 20. The cabinet crashed over the hooded man, and the killer fell back, letting go of Clarissa. Glass jars smashed on the floor, stinging vapours swirled into the air, and golden preserving fluid washed across the museum, sloshing with slippery organs. Wildboy rushed to Clarissa. He feared that he was too late, but she was breathing, hurt, gasping, but breathing. She turned, looking groggily around the shattered shelves. "Where is he?" she groaned. "Where did he go?" The hooded man had gone, but there was no time to worry about him now. The police outside would have heard the crashes. Wildboy wrapped an arm around Clarissa's shoulder and helped her stand. They began to shuffle towards the door, but several jars fell from the shelves in front of them. Clarissa screamed and they staggered back, but now more jars shattered to the ground behind. Acid liquid splashed up, soaking Wildboy's hair and stinging his eyes. A black shape streaked behind the shelves. The hooded man. Another cabinet toppled over, colliding with the next, falling like dominoes. Wildboy gritted his teeth, trying to fight the pain, to think. They had to get out of here, but the path to the door was blocked by fallen shelves. They'd have to take their chances with the window. "This way!" he cried, as another cabinet smashed down to their side. He gripped Clarissa tighter, leading her to the secret room. "The copper," she said. Wildboy looked back and cursed. The police officer still lay unconscious on the floor. One of the shelves could fall on him at any moment. It ain't your problem, he thought. Leave him. But he knew he couldn't. He swore again and kept swearing as he rushed to the officer and dragged him away from the chaos. As he ran back to Clarissa, he glimpsed the hooded man dart behind another cabinet, just yards away. He heard Clarissa yell a warning, saw the cabinet swing down. Wildboy threw himself to the side, trying to dive out of the way, but he was too late, too slow. He hit the ground and cried out as the cabinet slammed onto him, showering him with glass and body parts. The killer's lamp fell to the floor and set fire to the preserving fluid. A wall of flames roared up around the museum. Wildboy tried to move, but his long coat was caught under the shelves. Flames licked across the floor. The hair on his face crackled with heat. Clarissa staggered to him and tugged his coat, but she was still too weak to tear it free. "Run," Wildboy said. "Get out of here." Then another voice spoke. "Give me the book." The hooded man came closer, walking in those awkward, jerky strides. The tattered leather trail of his coat caught fire as it swept over the wreckage of the museum. The flames must have scorched his legs, but he didn't make a sound as he reached down and took the doctor's notebook from Wildboy's pocket. And then he brought out a knife. "No!" Clarissa screamed. "Leave him alone!" With a powerful sweep of his arm, the killer shoved her away. Dark eyes glinted behind that mask. For a moment, Wildboy thought he recognized them. He couldn't see their colour, but he knew he had seen them somewhere before. The killer's knife shone in the firelight as he held the weapon closer. Wildboy gritted his teeth, stopping himself from crying out. If he was going to die, he wouldn't give his murderer the satisfaction of hearing him scream. But the hooded man didn't kill him. Instead, he swiped the blade and cut Wildboy's coat from the shelves. Then, in one quick movement, he leapt into the doctor's secret chamber. Wildboy grasped Clarissa's arm as she helped him stand. His wounded shoulder bled onto his coat. His hair was scorched and his lip was bloody. But it wasn't pain he felt, it was anger. "I never asked for your help," he yelled at the killer. "I don't owe you nothing." The hooded man looked back. The fire lit his white mask blood red. "Soon, Wildboy," he said, "you will owe me everything." In a smash and a shower of glass, he jumped through the window. Wildboy charged after the killer. The hairs crackled all over his body as he pulled his coat up over his head and burst through the flames. He leapt into the secret chamber and rushed to the broken window, certain that he'd see the hooded man lying injured in the yard below. "No!" he yelled, slamming his hand against the wall. The killer was gone. Wildboy didn't understand. It was 20 feet down. How could he have jumped that without breaking his legs? "Wildboy!" Clarissa yelled, climbing into the chamber. "The police!" More officers appeared in the museum doorway, shielding their faces against the blaze. Through the fire, they saw their fallen colleague on the floor, and Wildboy and Clarissa in the secret room. "It's him!" one of the officers yelled. "It's the Wildboy of London!" "It's both of them!" another said. "I claim the reward!" "Go!" Wildboy cried, urging Clarissa through the window. She climbed through and jumped. The drop was no problem for her, even onto stone. She landed in a roll, sprang up, and set off running down the alley. "Hurry!" she called. "I see the killer!" "Clarissa, wait!" Wildboy clambered out onto the ledge. For a moment he feared he might slip. He pressed himself back against the wall. He wasn't an acrobat. He couldn't jump this. The police were getting closer. Jump, he thought. Jump. His coat snapped through the fog as he fell. He landed on top of the outhouse, but his feet plunged through as the shed collapsed. Pain roared from his injured shoulder as he crash-landed in the broken wood. There! He's down there! Policemen's truncheons thwacked onto the ground. Wildboy rose and staggered to the alley. He saw Clarissa in the distance and went after her as fast as he could. His side throbbed from the impact on the cabinet, but fear and adrenaline kept him moving as he followed her across the street and into another alley. And then he stopped. Clarissa leaned against the alley wall, breathing hard. I nearly caught him, she said. The alley ended in a wall that was as high as those on either side. A couple of rats scurried over a pile of crates. Where'd he go? Wildboy said. He came down here, Clarissa said. She kicked one of the crates over, as if she expected to find the killer beneath. All she saw was cobbles. But he disappeared. Wrong alley, Wildboy said. No, it ain't, Clarissa snapped. I said he disappeared, look. On the ground beside the crates lay Dr. Griffin's journal, still smoking from the fire. He must have dropped it, Clarissa said, snatching it up. That confused Wildboy even more. The killer had gone to such lengths to steal that book, and... He dropped it, he said. Yeah, and he disappeared, said Clarissa firmly. She ran to the end of the alley and looked out into the street. Coppers! The police officers stumbled from the doctor's house, coughing on smoke. One of them saw Clarissa and blasted a shrill warning from his whistle. Run! Wildboy cried. He followed her, praying there was another drain they could crawl into, a way back into hiding, but there was none. Clarissa threw an arm around his back to help him run, but they were too slow. The police were now 30 yards away, now 20. They're catching up, Clarissa said. What do we do? And then, a crack, a cry. Yah! Several police officers divided aside as a carriage burst through the fog, jolting over potholes in the road. Master Wild! Miss Everett! Sir Oswald sat in the driver's perch, the stumps of his thighs tucked under a strap. He lashed the horses harder. Ha ha! Old Ozzie's got your backs! Clarissa leaped onto the footplate and swung open the door. She leaned from the carriage as it clattered forward, calling to Wildboy, Give me a hand! One of the policemen charged up behind Wildboy and tried to grab his coat, but Wildboy gripped Clarissa's hand and she hauled him up into the carriage. Sir Oswald thrashed the reins and they raced away along the street. Wildboy tumbled into the footwell beneath the seats, breathing hard. Clarissa glared down at him. Her face was bruised, her coat was burnt and speckled with broken glass, and her eyes were raw from the preserving fluid. She dropped Dr. Griffin's journal to the carriage floor. I hope it was worth it, she said.